Welcome to Learning to Glow, a show about wellness, skin health, and self-development. I'm your host, Jess. I'm a mom, entrepreneur, and skincare expert. I'm so excited to share tips on how to achieve healthy skin and bring amazing guests in the field of health, fitness, aging gracefully, and personal growth. Let's explore all different ways we can take care of ourselves as women, both inside and out, to truly shine. So let's get glowing. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Learning to Glow podcast. I'm your host, Jess, and today I have a solo episode. I haven't done this in quite a while, and I'm also celebrating the 25th episode of Learning to Glow. As one of my guests said on a previous episode, Carrie Fitzgerald, to celebrate your wins. And I feel like this is a huge win for me to have started this podcast this year, and the amount of episodes that I've been able to put out every single Wednesday, the caliber of my guests, the things that I've learned have blown my mind. I have not expected it to go this well. You never know when you do something brand new, what's going to happen and how it's going to work out. This has been such a great experience for me. And I've learned a lot, and it's only been 25 weeks. So I wanted to take this time and share some of the things that I've learned from my guests that have made a big impact in my health. And as some of you know, I have struggled with my health in the last few years. I have definitely had some chronic illnesses happening. My healing process from some of those issues has been slow. And I have always been very excited about wellness, and I've always strived for health, and I've always been the type of person who wants to try new things that can possibly help with my health, because throughout my life I've had some issues. Part of the reason I even started this podcast was because I wanted to bring on guest experts and learn and continue to learn and to share what I learned, because I love to do that. So if something works for me and it could help someone else possibly, that is something that I'm very passionate about sharing. Some of the things that I've learned over the past, 25 weeks, I have made a huge difference in my life. Some of the guests that I've had on the show have actually helped me. That's why I've asked them to be on the show, or maybe I add them on and then I was like, wow, I need to work with this person. So that's kind of the motivation for me starting this podcast in the first place. I am so excited to see where this podcast goes. I have a lot of exciting guests coming up and some other ideas for some solo episodes that I think will be really, really fun. So if you are a listener and you have any ideas, or if there's a topic that you're interested in learning more about, reach out, send me a message on Instagram. I will try to make it happen. I have a lot of ideas for things coming up, but I also am open to what do you guys want to hear? What do you guys want to learn more about? So, and if you have something amazing to share and you'd like to be on the podcast, send me a message as well. I'm going to talk about a couple episodes, specifically a couple things that I've implemented into my life today. The funny thing is, the first one is my walking episode, which was a solo episode. It was episode number 3. And it's actually one of my most popular podcast downloads, because I think it really helped people get motivated to start implementing daily walking into their life. And I loved hearing that feedback about that. This is not, rocket science. Obviously, we all know walking is good for us. I knew that it was good for me, but I wasn't doing it as often as I am now. And I think the reason why is because I did some of this research and found out how truly amazing and beneficial walking is. And so ever since that episode, I've actually walked almost every day. And some days I am so exhausted, it's like a 5 to 10 minute walk. But I have gotten out and walked. And it does help that I have a dog, because I know it's so beneficial for my dog to get out there and walk. My last dog that I had wasn't a big fan of walking, so that wasn't an incentive for me. But being outside, taking time to walk, and sometimes it was just me and the dog. Sometimes I took my kids. I do feel like that has been such a great new habit that I've implemented into my life. Sometimes I like to go and listen to a great podcast that I haven't heard in a long time, or I actually have this great walking meditation that I like to do, and it just gets me in the best mood. I have also started walking after dinner. The reason I started doing this is because it helps with digestion. The second reason is because it's getting to be too hot. I don't want to be walking in the middle of the day anymore. It's too hot here. And so I'm waiting until it cools off a little bit. It's just like the perfect time to do it. So I've been really enjoying those. I love summer because it's so much lighter later. I can tell you that my digestion has seen an improvement. The next thing that has made such a great impact on my life is I working with Emily. And Emily Brown is a nutritionist. She's a holistic nutritionist. And I had her on my show, and I just fell in love with everything that she had to say. And I just felt called to work with her. So we started working together after that episode, which aired in March. And if you haven't heard that episode, I'm going to link all the episodes that I'm talking about today. But if you haven't heard that episode with Emily, I highly recommend it. We do a Q&A at the end too, some listener questions that were just amazing. I'm going to actually have Emily back on. So if you have any questions for her that you would like me to cover and ask her, let me know, because she's coming back. She was so amazing. With Emily, the biggest impact happened for me when I did some testing with her. And I realized I have food sensitivities that I was not aware of. So taking those foods out has made a big difference in my digestion, actually, as well. Just having that information is so empowering. When you are going through something like I'm going through, which a lot of the time you're trying to figure out what the heck is wrong with you. Why don't I have energy? Why am I tired all the time? And you don't really have answers. I loved working with somebody who is using testing that can really help pinpoint where you're at and how to get better. And that's basically something that has been a slow process for me. I started working with her in March, and I'm just recently starting to see some really good benefits, and my energy is up. We definitely took out some foods, and I'm also on several herbs to help with different problems that I'm having, and I can see a difference. One of my biggest takeaways with Emily is if you have had an illness that is chronic and you can't figure out, it is very frustrating, and it is very hard to be patient. And I really went through that this past 3 months because I was like, I'm doing all these things. I want to see results. And for a time, I was actually worse. Now I know, detoxing, and I was really struggling worse than I had been before. And so that, of course, is even more frustrating. But it's really taught me that this healing process requires patience. And that's something that I have had to work with and deal with, my frustration that it's not happening quicker, that I'm not healing as fast as I want to. And that some days you're going to feel better, and then some days it's going to go backwards. So it's not a straight line. It's not, oh, I did all of these things and now I'm better. Sometimes it goes up and down. And we also talked about that with Christina, who suffered from breast implant illness. There are still times that she has flare-ups and that she's dealing with things that kind of knock her down a little bit, that this is a more lifelong journey. It's not like there's never an ending point. We're always continually trying to improve our health and work on things, especially if we've had some chronic illnesses. So that was a good lesson for me of impatience and all of those other things, and frustration. And, and people ask you, well, how are you feeling? Are you feeling better yet? And you're like, well, darn it, I should be, but I'm not. So I can safely say now I can definitely see the difference in the way I'm feeling. And I know a big part of that is because of Emily. I'll definitely link her podcast episode because it was such a good one. Another really key part of me getting better, trying to fix my health, is meeting Jenna Bradshaw. So I met her a few years ago. I had a surgery. I went to see her for a lymphatic drainage therapy treatment. It was amazing. And I kind of took a break. I didn't go back for a while. And I decided to see her as I was starting this process with Emily, my nutritionist. So I got my first lymphatic drainage treatment, and I was very congested in my lymph. Like my lymph wasn't flowing as smoothly as it should, which really affects your detoxification. It affects everything. So we decided to do an 8 treatment series, and I did a thermography scan, and that kind of showed where I was blocked. They can do that with the scan and with the heat, and you can kind of see where you're at health wise with your lymphatic system. After doing my 8th treatment, I did another scan, and my scan was very much improved, which is probably another reason that I'm feeling better and that I've seen such a big result. So 8 lymphatic drainage treatments, 1 a week for 2 months, was very beneficial for my health. On top of the weekly lymphatic drainage therapy treatments that I had, I was also doing almost every time a castor oil pack on my stomach. And that was really great. That really helped me with the bloating that I was having and experiencing with my problems with my digestion. So getting the lymphatic drainage treatments was a huge help in my health journey. I did have Jenna on the podcast. I will link her episode that she was on, but she really shows you how many different things in our body can be affected when we have a clogged lymphatic system. How many different things that we can suffer from, what are some of the symptoms that you can have if your lymphatic system isn't up to par. So definitely check that episode out as well if you haven't yet. When I had my test for food sensitivities, one of the foods that came up on my test was coffee. So if you know me, you know that I have a love of coffee. It is something that I would drink every day, and I would even say over drink. I always drank too much. And I remember seeing a doctor like a while ago before all of this and telling them how much coffee that I drank, how it probably wasn't a good idea. It was probably messing up my digestion. When coffee came up on my allergy test, I was very upset. That was like one thing I always said, I will never stop drinking coffee. It just brings me so much joy. It brings me so much happiness. And I decided to cut back. My nutritionist recommended if you're going to drink coffee, drink mold-free coffee. That's another episode. But a lot of times, the way that the coffee crops are farmed, there happens to be mold in a lot of coffee. So not only if you're dealing with some type of chronic illness, not only can the coffee be a little aggravating, especially for your digestion if you overdo it, but also you're receiving mold from the coffee. So that actually showed up in my test as well, that I had some mold in my system. So after trying to cut back and not being very successful, I decided, I'm just going to give it up. It's been 8 weeks since I've had coffee. I'm okay. If anybody cares, I am okay. It was one of those things that was really hard at first. I did have a detox from it. I did get headaches, but I didn't quit drinking caffeine. I now drink matcha, and it took me a long time to enjoy matcha, but I do enjoy it. I look forward to getting it in the morning. I'm drinking way less caffeine, which is just better for my system at this point in my life. I love the benefits of green tea. I love the benefits that you get with matcha. It's really great with antioxidants, and it's super good for your skin. So there's a lot of great things that I love about matcha. I'm not saying that I'll never have a coffee again, but for right now, I'm okay. I don't miss it right now. I am totally content with my daily matcha. I also found, if anybody's interested, I can link the name of the powder that I'm using, but I also found this greens powder. It is caffeinated. So I wake up in the morning and I have a caffeinated greens, and it's just like a greens powder that has all of these healthy ingredients in it and some caffeine from tea leaves. It's derived from tea leaves. So I have that, and I have a matcha, and I feel like I enjoy those things so much, because one of the things that I was worried about with the coffee was really taking out coffee and just taking out that joy that I get from it and the smell and the ritual of it. But now I feel like I've done that with these other drinks, and I feel like it gives me energy still. I don't feel like I'm deprived. So I know that's a big tangent, but I do feel like when you're in these situations, there's been a lot of times that I have a lot of foods that I'm not supposed to eat that are on my list. Some are I'm highly sensitive to, some are like mild. And I have had to have this conversation with myself. Like, what is the benefit? Like, is it more important for me just to have the thing that I want and not deprive myself? Or is it in this situation, is it better to just not take it and get better quicker? So I've had to do that quite a bit. I've definitely not been perfect on this journey. I have had a lot of times where I've eaten things that maybe I shouldn't because I just don't like that privation. I've been super restrictive in the past with my diet and in an unhealthy way. And I don't want to live like that. So it's a fine line for me. It's like I'm trying to heal and I'm trying to do the right things and I'm trying to get better, but I'm also trying to not go down a dangerous path mentally and just, having joy and being able to be social and have the time to be able to go out to dinner and like not worry so much. So at this point with my health, I feel like I'm in a lot better spot. One of the biggest takeaways I have is just remembering to be patient with my health journey. And I feel like this is really important when it comes to like weight loss too, because I have gained weight over the past few years and a lot of my clothes don't fit. And that's super frustrating. But I have to remember that patience piece and just, first of all, my weight isn't the most important thing. I'm fine. And once my body heals more and my hormones regulate more and all of the other things happen that I'm working on, it'll be better at that point. And I feel like that's another area of my life where I'm kind of impatient and I'm learning along with what to do for my health, how to also manage my mind around wanting quick results and wanting to be better and to wanting to have this weight gone and all of those other things. At least I see progress, which really helps me keep going. I now that I see the progress, it's motivating for sure because it makes you feel like the work that you put in is making a big difference. I love the emotional wellness component to this podcast. So we've had a couple guests that have really talked about, like Diana's podcast with finding joy and with Leanne with the Evox episode, because that is such a huge piece to healing and to being healthy. And I remember when I started working with Emily, one of the first things we did is talk about how are you managing your stress? And what are we going to do here? Let's come up with a plan for your stress management. And at first I was like, oh, that's so interesting because I thought we were going to get right into, okay, what's your diet and exercise like looking like? And it just shows you how big of a piece our mental health and our emotional health is when we're trying to be overall healthy, and how stress can impact our bodies, our minds in such a negative way that we need to come up with a game plan when we're trying to get healthy as to how are we going to also take care of that stress piece. And I feel like that's another thing I love about my walks, getting physical activity, because I feel like that is such a great way to try to change your state with how you're feeling in your brain. So that's been another really interesting piece of, oh, I'm going to work with the nutritionist and I'm going to get healed and all of these things. And then you have to also deal with your mind of like, oh, well, my expectations were here and that didn't deliver as fast as I wanted it to. So I love talking about all of that as well. And there's more to come on that in the podcast. I just want to say thank you for everyone who has listened. If you've been here from the beginning, if you've heard all my episodes, the support and the messages that I get. Thank you for your reviews. I truly am so thrilled that the feedback has been so positive because I'm enjoying it, and I just am so glad that it's resonating with you all as well. This has been so much fun, and I just cannot wait to see where it goes. So I have to thank you all again, and please let me know if you have any other suggestions, if you have anything that you want to see or hear. Please let me know. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. One of the things that really helps the show is if you leave a review, and please share it with someone. If you love the podcast, please share it. That really helps to get the word out, and I appreciate all of you that have done that. That means the world to me. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I will be talking more about my health journey as things change. It's one of those things that I was hesitant to even bring up because, to be honest, I feel like I should be like completely healed and then I do the podcast, or everything's perfect. I'm my ideal weight. I'm perfectly healthy. I have all the energy in the world, but I'm not there yet, and I don't want to wait. I want to share as I'm going because I feel like this could help someone. It's not going to ever be an end destination. I'm going to share how I'm doing and what I've learned along the way, even though it may not look perfect at this moment. That doesn't mean I shouldn't be sharing it, and I definitely will keep updating you. So I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Please subscribe and review so we can reach more people who want to learn to glow alongside us. See you next time.